Silence on the campaign trail. Hillary Clinton seems to think it's golden, while Jeb Bush seems to be avoiding it at some cost. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Chris Wallace in for Bret Baier. A tale of two different strategies on the campaign trail, as frontrunners on both sides are dealing with tough issues and handling them very differently. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry with Hillary Clinton heading back to Iowa and New Hampshire, but that doesn't mean she'll take questions from reporters. First, Chief Political Correspondent Carl Cameron with Jeb Bush, who keeps struggling to answer the same question. Good evening, Carl.
Hi, Chris. This is now day 4 for Jeb Bush, who is clearly becoming impatient with putting it all behind him. In Tempe, Arizona, at the Four Peaks Brewing Company, Jeb Bush used his opening remarks for another attempt at clarifying what he calls his misinterpretation of Megyn Kelly's question aired Monday night, when he sounded like he would have invaded Iraq, knowing there were no weapons of mass destruction. Bush today.
And it's very hard for me to say that their lives were lost in vain. In fact, they weren't. So here's the deal. If we're all supposed to answer hypothetical questions, knowing what we know now, what would you have done? I would have not engaged. I would not have gone into Iraq. That's not to say that the world is safer because Saddam Hussein is gone. It is significantly safer.
Bush said similar things yesterday, but with questions shifting from what did he actually mean to why did he take so long to get it straight, he made a new appeal today for a serious debate, not about his family or the nation's past, but its future.
Are we going to pull back now and be defeatist and pessimistic, or are we going to engage in a way that creates a more peaceful and secure world? That is what 2016 is about. Not about 2000, not about 1992, not about 1980, but about the future.
The Jeb Bush political pedigree is proving at once an asset and liability. This should come as no surprise, given he's been on the 2016 trail as an unofficial contender for months. In New Hampshire, billionaire Donald Trump was blasting away.
He gave an answer like, he would have done the same thing, which was sort of a shocker. And then he went back and he reiterated.
Bush's original statements prompted questions to or statements from numerous rivals who all in one form or another eagerly said they would not have gone to war knowing what is now known. The former Florida governor addresses the Republican National Committee tonight in Scottsdale, Arizona. This afternoon, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, who won the lead-off Iowa caucuses in 2012, told the GOP's governing body it's time to embrace a minimum wage.
Not necessarily because it's the best economic policy, but it shows you care. And you say, oh, that's terrible, it sounds like a Democrat. Caring is not a Democratic ideal, and if it is, then we're not going to win a lot of elections.
Since the scandal-plagued Clinton 90s, it's been an axiom of American politics that no matter how big, small, old, or new the political problem is, relief's going to depend on quickly and clearly addressing it with all the facts. Bush is living through that over old issues right now, and it does raise questions about why Hillary Clinton is letting so many big questions on new controversies like her emails go out there unanswered for so long, Chris.
More on this with the panel. Carl, thank you. Hillary Clinton keeps avoiding the media and any question about Clinton cash, but as Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry reports, that isn't stopping Republicans from going after the Clinton Foundation.
20 House Republicans today stepped up pressure on Hillary Clinton in a letter to the Internal Revenue Service, demanding the agency investigate the tax-exempt status of the Clinton Foundation.
Look at this as conflicts of interest at the structure of the foundation, or I should say for potential conflicts of interest. Look at the lack of transparency or the possibility of impropriety.
It's highly unlikely the IRS will ever follow through, and Clinton is plowing ahead with her methodical effort to visit key battlegrounds without facing tough questions, announcing today she'll make her second stop in Iowa next Monday and Tuesday, plus a return visit to New Hampshire on Thursday. Continuing the roundtable format that has enabled her to duck most questions about the Clinton Foundation or anything else.
Women would need to work that extra 104 days into this year to equal the same amount of pay that a man made last year.
Yet there could be fallout for Clinton in swing states based on a new poll by Vox Populi conducted for the conservative super PAC American Crossroads, which found Clinton trails a generic Republican candidate by double digits in Colorado, Florida, Iowa, Nevada, Ohio, and Virginia. There may also be foundation fallout for ABC News' chief anchor, George Stephanopoulos, a former Clinton White House official. Stephanopoulos revealed early today he gave $50,000 to the Clinton Foundation in recent years, later in the day amending that number to $75,000. The newsman did not disclose that before grilling Peter Schweizer, author of Clinton Cash.
They haven't confirmed any evidence of any crime.
Well, but it's not up to an author to prove crime.
Stephanopoulos, who faced criticism from Republicans over a contraception question he asked Mitt Romney in a 2012 debate, said today he will not moderate any debates this year, though he refused to recuse himself from campaign coverage. And ABC News released a statement declaring, quote, he's admitted to an honest mistake and apologized for that omission. We stand behind him.
Clinton is about to get another Democratic rival beyond Bernie Sanders, Martin O'Malley, signaling he'll announce on May 30th in Baltimore. But in the latest Fox poll, O'Malley is behind Vice President Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren, both of whom are not in this race. Chris?
Ed, thank you. The death toll from this week's deadly train derailment has risen to 8. Investigators say all passengers are now accounted for, and the focus is on trying to figure out why the train was traveling at twice the speed limit around a turn. Politicians have been quick to make a turn of their own, spinning tragedy into politics. Correspondent Leland Vittert is near the crash site in Philadelphia with new information from investigators. Good evening, Leland.
Good evening, Chris. That NTSB press conference is still going on, and we're learning more about what didn't cause this crash than what did. The NTSB says the train's brakes were checked in Washington and were working properly. As far as they can tell, all the signals along the railroad tracks were working properly as well. What they don't know is why this train accelerated from 75 miles an hour to 106 miles an hour in the minute before the crash. That could have been manual or automatic, they say. This comes as 48 hours after this crash, Democrats are still trying to score political points. The president saying in the past couple of minutes that the United States needs to invest in infrastructure even when there is not just a bridge collapse or train crash.
The DeLauro Amendment would have funded positive train control at the president's budget level, $825 million. That was voted down. I just don't know why. But the Republicans have been very much against Amtrak for a very long time.
Republicans argue they aren't against Amtrak or safety, but rather other massive subsidies. Yesterday, a Republican-controlled committee vote gave Amtrak $1.14 billion of taxpayer money for next year, $250 million less than this year. House Speaker John Boehner says complaining Democrats are forgetting what caused the crash.
Are you really going to ask such a stupid question? Listen. You know, they started this yesterday. It's all about funding. It's all about funding. Well, obviously, it's not about funding. The train was going twice the speed limit. Adequate funds were there.
Amtrak CEO pointed to radio interference rather than funding problems for lack of positive train control safety on this stretch of track. But Philadelphia's mayor stepped in and scolded reporters who tried to question the CEO on the political gamesmanship.
If you want to have a policy conversation or a finger-pointing contest, generally this is not going to be the place for that.
As the investigation switches from the tracks to the NTSB lab, we are learning more about the train's engineer, Brandon Bastian. His lawyer said the 4-year veteran train driver gave a required blood test, wasn't using his cell phone, and doesn't remember much about the crash because of a concussion. Bastian reportedly asked for a lawyer when police tried to question him. The delay doesn't really bother the NTSB, which expects to interview him in the next few days.
This engineer has been through a traumatic event. We want to make sure that when we do interview him, that he's of good, sound mind and body.
The NTSB has essentially ended their investigation here in the field, turning the crash scene back over to Amtrak, who now has the grisly task of clearing out all the rail cars that crashed, replacing all the broken railroad track, replacing all the signals, so they say the trains can start running here again on Monday or Tuesday, Chris, although still without that safety device that they say should be installed by the end of this year.
Leland Vittert reporting from Philadelphia. Leland, thanks for that. Up next, the fallout from President Obama's Arab summit. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 53 in Pittsburgh with another train derailment in Pennsylvania. An empty 13-car freight train went off the rails outside the Steel City, leaving a mess of overturned cars. No one was hurt and no word on a cause tonight. WFXT in Boston, where Patriots quarterback Tom Brady has appealed his 4-game suspension over deflated footballs. The Patriots have criticized the league's report as incomplete, incorrect, and lacking context. And this is a live look at Sacramento from Fox 40. The big story there tonight, a vaccination bill has passed the California State Senate. The bill would make it mandatory for students to be vaccinated in order to attend public and private schools. Critics call it government overreach. The bill now heads to the State Assembly. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.